We are many. There were multiples. There are a lot of them. And I don't know how spirits work, especially evil spirits for that matter, but apparently they had a spokesman. And this one person was the one who was conversing with Jesus, and he came, and as he saw Jesus, in verse 6, what did he do when he saw Jesus from afar off? Worshipped him, ran up to him, worshipped him. Now, do you think this was the same kind of worship that a true believer would have given Christ? And certainly, as we see this exchange, the only way I can understand it is he was the evil spirits were giving homage to Christ, not worshiping him in the sense that a believer would be worshiping him. They would come to him. In fact, what they said in verse 7 is they call, well, let's read it. It says, "What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I know who you are. Why are you bothering me? Why have you come?" It seems like the evil spirits thought that Jesus had landed in that spot specifically to deal with these evil spirits. Maybe he did. He came, and as we will see in the rest of the chapter, Jesus landed there, and he dealt with this man who was controlled by all these evil spirits, and then the people asked him to leave again. Remember, this was not a Jewish area either. Couple hints there is there was a herd of 2,000 pigs out there. So we probably wouldn't find that in a strong Jewish area. And that there weren't any Pharisees or Jewish leaders following Christ. Wherever Christ went in a Jewish area, the Jewish leaders always seemed to be the second ones on the spot. They were always there to challenge Christ. Yes, Dave? You're right. That wasn't a Jewish community where they could see that his miracle would influence those Jews who were in that area, because it doesn't sound like there were many. And we know that what was Jesus' mission on earth? Okay, someone else? Seek and save the lost. Who was he sent to? Sent to the Jews. His mission was to seek and save the lost. Bring that message from God to the Jews. And if we look through the scriptures, we'll see that he was specifically to preach and teach the Jews. Now, it's not that he didn't teach some others, but that really wasn't his mission. And we remember the story about the woman who was serving him. And he said, well, I haven't come to serve the Gentiles. And she says, well, even the dogs get the crumbs that fall from the table. And he listened to her petition. So he was primarily here to speak to the Jews. When he left the other side of the lake previously, it was because he was wearied from preaching and teaching all day, and he was trying to get away from people, as he did a number of times when he wanted to pray on his own and to get away from all the crowds. So here, as Jesus is there, he finds this man who was tormented with the evil spirits, and they said, please do not torment them. They wanted just to be left alone to do their work. And Jesus called them out and sent them. Well, actually, Billy, they did ask for permission to go into the swine. If we look at verse 10 and 11, it says, also he begged him, or the evil spirit begged Jesus earnestly that he would not send him out of the country. And two of the translations say country, and one refers more to send him out into the nether regions, out into the air, if you look the original word in Greek. And I think and it looks, I think that may be in Luke. And I can't find that right now. But anyway, they wanted to have, not to be sent out just where Jesus may send them. But he said, when he said, come out of them, and in verse 10, and he begged them earnestly that he would not send them out of the country. Now a large herd of swine was feeding there near the mountains. So all the demons begged him, saying, send us into the swine that we may enter them. And at once Jesus gave them permission. Now, if they could enter a man without his control, without his requesting that or allowing that, as Billy said, he could certainly have entered the pigs. They didn't want to oppose Christ face to face here at this point. So Jesus gave them permission, and they entered into the swine. And then what happened to them? The pigs ran down an embankment into the lake. They were drowned. We don't know what happened to the evil spirits. But anyway, it seems like they really didn't get what they wanted, regardless of where they went. They were out of the man. They didn't try to go back, and that's the last we really hear about the evil spirits there. Yes. Yes, thank you. And at the end of verse 30, and he said, when he was asked what his name was, Legion, because we are many demons had entered him, and they begged him that he would not command them to go out into the abyss, or into that bottomless pit. Do we know anything about that abyss and that bottomless pit from any other studies we've been doing lately? It is hell or Hades. Okay, let's take a look at Revelations 20. Okay. Revelations 20, 9 and 10. Now we have to be careful using this passage and remember that this is where many denominations lay their teaching for that 1,000-year reign. We know that that is not scriptural, where there will be a new earth set up where they will reign for that 1,000 years. But in 9 and 10 it says, and they went up on the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints. Now these are Satan's followers. And the beloved city, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. And the devil who deceived them, who was called that great deceiver, was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, that they may be tormented day and night forever and ever. I think this is a reference to that concern that the devils had, the evil spirits had, and I think that's right, that bottomless pit, the abyss, and I'm looking over one of the other translations. I think it's a New American Standard. Where the evil spirits say that, have you come to destroy us before our time? And we know that there is going to be a time, as it gives us in Revelation, that they will be bound. And that's not where it's at. So, but they were asking for some sort of dispensation where they wouldn't be driven out, locked up in that abyss, so they couldn't do the devil's work any longer. They were allowed to go into the swine. The swine were destroyed. They died. And we don't know what happened to the evil spirits, but we do know what happened to the man who was bound. And I think that's the focus that I want to take a look at this morning, because here was a man who did not have control of his life. Here was a man who had been taken over by Satan, and he was controlled by the evil spirits. And if we go to verse 14 of Mark chapter 5, it says, "So those who fed the swine fled, and they told it in the city and in the country, and they went out to see what it was that had happened. Then they came to Jesus, and they saw the one who had been demon-possessed and had the legion of evil spirits, that is, sitting, clothed, and in his right mind, and they were afraid." Now, it didn't reflect that in Mark, but in Luke, it says that the man was naked. He lived in the tombs. He didn't wear any clothes, and he had came out and challenged people so that they couldn't pass through that area freely. And that here, remembering, these were Gentiles. Before the time. And we understand that God had the power to control all that, and He allowed those evil spirits to perform in those ways. By Christ. Yep. So, here, as Billy had said, Matthew 8:29, it says, "Are you going to destroy us before our time?" So there was going to be a time that all that was going to be put away. But this man was found sitting. It doesn't tell us anything more than that, except that he was sitting there, he was in his right mind, he was fully clothed, and that concerned the people of that area because it sounds like they had not seen him like that before. That was not how he lived his life. That's not what they had expected him to be. I'm sorry? I don't know. Did they know he was demon possessed, or did they think he was just mad, just insane? I mean, yes. Well, it said because they had bound him with shackles and chains, and he would break the shackles and chains. And we talked about that a little bit last week, where it gave him that incredible strength. That was superhuman strength, that he could break steel chains and shackles. I'm not sure what they would have thought of him, because would have been so unusual that someone had that strength that they would live their life like that. And what had happened to this man, that that is how he lived his life. Apparently for as long as they knew, because it doesn't tell us of any start, but it tells us of the end of him living that way. Go on. Yeah. Well, and I think that's what caused those people in that area, the ones who owned the pigs, to go around and tell everybody, because there was a case there to be made with the city fathers. But when they came back and they saw this man who had caused such trouble in the area, and now he's just sitting quietly over there, seems like that was enough for them. Yes, Manny? Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, it was obvious that they would see that great change, the difference in this man. And they had to see and know that it was because of what Jesus had done, whether they understood that fully or not. That was the cause of that. I'm happy you brought that up. You want to explain that to us? Well, that is what Matthew recorded. I went through a lot of commentaries, and the general belief was that Jesus was dealing with the one who was the most egregious at that point. And I don't know what, we can put that on the list of things we're going to ask when we get to heaven. Yes. It it says they were afraid, and then immediately after that, they said they asked Jesus to leave the area. So I think the fear was regarding Jesus, what he was able to do in the area, and they just didn't know how that power was going to be used in the future. I think it's like today, when you have that great power from something like that, there's some fear involved with those around it, and they just wanted him gone. Remember how many times Jesus performed a miracle, and the people in the area, even Jews, asked him to leave their area because it was causing such uproar in the city. So I think that's one of our natural responses to something like that is we fear it and we want it to go away. Was there another question? Yes, sir. That could be. That could be. You know, and that sounds as plausible as anything else that we've talked about here this morning. We just don't know. The scriptures really don't tell us. But there was a fear that came up because Jesus had the power and demonstrated that he had power. And in the past, he's got power over illnesses. He's got power over death. He's got power over the natural elements, the sea and the winds. And now he's got power over evil spirits. And they're seeing all of this, and that. Yes, Manny. Yeah. I don't know. Well, and I think that is generally what will happen. Sometimes, if you have a tendency to believe, but you're not ready to make a change, you just want that to go away from you also. So anyway, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think as we finish out this section, verse 18 of chapter 5 down through the end, and here is an exchange between the man who was healed and Jesus. And when he got into the boat, meaning Jesus, he who had been possessed, a demon possessed, begged him that he might be with him or go with him. However, Jesus did not permit him, but said to him, "Go home to your friends and tell them what great things the Lord has done for you and how he has had compassion on you." And he departed and began to proclaim in Decapolis all that Jesus had done for him, and all marveled. So at least the one who was healed wanted to continue with Jesus, wanted to be one of the disciples, but we remember he was not a Jew. And Jesus, that may have been the reason Jesus didn't have him become one of the followers, but he says that's not the only way to serve. You can go talk to your friends, talk to those you know, tell everyone what Jesus had done for you. So he was kind of given an alternative to traveling with Jesus. Tell everyone Jesus had compassion on you. And then Jesus departed and went across the lake again to the other side. Jerry has given me the first bell, but we're going to continue on into verse 21. This is, I guess, what I have termed a chance miracle healing. Beginning in verse 21. Now when Jesus had crossed over again by boat to the other side, a great multitude gathered to him, and he was by the sea, and behold, one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name, and when he saw him, he fell down at his feet and begged him earnestly, saying, My little daughter lies at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, that she may be healed, and she will live. So Jesus went with him, and a great multitude followed him and thronged him. So as Jesus comes off the boat, again, he's surrounded by a great multitude, a great crowd, a great throng of people. I'll tell you, when I see events on the news of the Middle East and of Palestine and Israel, and the streets are always absolutely packed with people. And so, you know, it seems like a cultural thing. And so when Jesus gets off that boat, he is immediately enthronged with all these people. And one works his way. Of course, now he is the synagogue, one of the synagogue rulers. So when he steps out into the aisle, people are going to give deference to him. So he can easily get to Jesus. And he comes up, and even he falls down at the feet of Jesus. And he's got a petition. Jesus, my little girl is at the point of death. Will you come with me and heal her? Doesn't record this in the scriptures, but you know he is thinking, because I know you have the power to do that. The word about Jesus spread through Galilee faster than it can on the internet. People, when something happened, everyone knew about it. It traveled very fast. So he had confidence that Jesus could make his daughter well. In verse 24, it says, So Jesus went with him. Jesus was going to answer his petition, answer his request, and was going to go that distance with him. And as Jesus is following along now, that crowd is still around him. It says in the end of verse 24, that great multitude followed him and thronged him. Just crowded close around him as they are going to Jairus' home to see his daughter, who was at the point of death. And then there's a little interlude in the story. And that interlude is something that happens, but it was by chance. Verse 25, Now a certain woman had a flow of blood for 12 years and had suffered many things from many physicians. Boy, don't we know that. She had spent all that she had and was no better, but rather grew worse. But when she heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd and touched his garment, for she said, If only I may touch his clothes, I shall be made well. The faith of these two, I think, were equal. Jairus came to Jesus, and he had the status that he could get to him and speak to him and make his request to him, the woman had the great faith that if only I can touch his garment, I'll receive my petition. And we're going to have to cut it off there. They gave me my second bell, but we will pick up right here next week. Thank you. Had really been what?
Originally been part of Israel. And so I think Jesus went there, had been, and he made that man mission.
That certainly could be. But
Your mic is still on.
thank you.